Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for your patience. These are crazy, crazy times. I didn't even think I was going to be streaming tonight. I thought you were going to have to wait until noon tomorrow to see me. But here I am. But things came up and now I'm streaming. Wow. I try not to make people wait forever, but there you go. Thanks for waiting. Glad you're here. Glad I can engage with all of you tonight. No one else I'd rather be talking to than our little amazing community here. You all are good folks. You all are great folks. And, it's really a privilege to be able to get on here every night and every afternoon and chat with you all. It's really, really an honor. It's really something I enjoy doing. So I'm really glad to have this opportunity. I guess we'll bring on the opening music. Say hi to Matches, everyone. Hi. We will get started here. So let me just put on the opening music, and here we go. Here we go.
The American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, 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 everybody. I'm so glad to be here with you tonight. It was unplanned. I was originally planning, because I had to go into the city anyway, that I would go to something, a religious thing in the evening, and didn't happen that way. So, and now someone's trying to get my attention now. There you go. But I thought I was going to go to a religious thing, and that did not end up happening. Oh, wow. But anyway, anyhow, so here I am. I'm back at home. So why not stream with all of you? Now, the reason that I had to come home is actually quite relevant to what we talk about here. The reason I didn't stay in the city. That's actually quite relevant to what we're talking about here. So I'll get to that later. I'll get to that later. But I guess, I do want to, I have like a new announcement tonight. I've been starting the streams with the announcement. Funky's enjoying it. Well, if Funky is happy, we're all happy. But I have been starting the streams generally lately by putting up the announcement at the conference, right? Because we are having a conference in Portland. It's very, very important. It'll be the biggest event that the Center for Political Innovation has ever done. At least 250 people will be there. It's going to be a full house in Portland, Oregon. Scott Ritter is going to be there. Nick Brana of the People's Party is going to be there. Garland Nixon's going to be there. Jyoti Brar of the Communist Party, Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist, is going to be there. David Rovics, the folk musician, is going to be performing. It's going to be epic in many, many ways. Peter Coffin is going to be there, right? He's actually making a documentary about the conference, like he always does. Peter Coffin is a beloved member of our community. It's just going to be epic, epic in many ways. But now, rather than just announcing it, and rather than simply announcing that we do need people to donate because the costs are adding up, some more donations is great. I will announce that, by the way, if you'd like to send a contribution. Contributions to help us fund the conference are always appreciated. I'll put that link up. But there's one more thing, in addition to, being able to donate to support the conference, because we still need to get all the funds together. Here's the new thing. New announcement is we need every person who is planning to go to register. It's time to register so that we can make sure we have enough space for everybody, make sure we have enough conference packets for everybody. We always give a packet and books, and you never just come to the CPI conference. You always get a goodie bag. We always make sure you leave with books and pamphlets and information and buttons and all kinds of stuff. So in order to make sure we know how many people are going to be there, and we have spots for everybody and all that, we need you to register. So here's the Eventbrite. I'm going to put it in the chat here. Register for the conference. And everyone who's going to be there, please just RSVP. Is that a thing people say now? RSVP. Register for the conference, right? It's almost November. It's December 2nd is the date of the conference. So it's time to RSVP, to register for the conference. So we would like everyone watching now, or watching later, or not watching, or whatever, everyone who plans to be at the conference, just go ahead and register. And I'm going to drop this in the Rumble, right? I'm going to drop this in the Rumble chat. Time to register for the conference. Going to drop this on the Rockfin, and it's time to register for the conference. We want everyone who's planning to go, to please register for the conference. Time to register. Time to register. That's what we need. Register for the conference. Every attendee, please register for the conference. That's what we're asking you to do. So go ahead and register so we can have everything planned. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. So, that is a step forward. A step forward is registration for the conference. That'll be good. Registration for the conference. We need it to happen. So register for the conference. Let us know that you'll be there. It's really turning into something. Today, I got to see some of the outreach that's been going on in Portland. Let me pull that up for you. People are out putting up posters and letting people know the conference is happening. Let me just put some of those posters up. I'll just show you a few pictures of what's been going on locally in Portland to let people know that the conference is happening. Here, all across the Portland area, posters are going up. Here, let me just show you. I'll show you some of the postering that's going on in Portland. Let me just pull some of those photos up. It's sweet, I mean, this isn't like some big corporate funded event. We want all the donations we can have to do it, but we're doing it old school style, right? We know the algorithms are rigged and, are not going to help us, but look at that. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this. Here, we'll put one image that I got from Portland. Oh, this is beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. Telephone pole. The Portland conference. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Here, got another one. Another one. Another one. Put the other one on the screen. It's just beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at the other one. The other poster. This one. Look at this. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Look at that. Look at that. And we're getting out the word. And it's really great. And we're having a planning meeting later, and one thing is leading to another, and it looks like I'm heading out of the country soon. I'll be sharing details with you all about that. Probably when I get back, or I don't know. But next week it looks like I'm traveling. Not yet 100% confirmed, but it looks like it's happening. So I'll be traveling next week, but I'll be streaming with you all weekend, tomorrow, Friday, all weekend. It looks like I'll be out of the country soon, though, for a little short trip. So that's going on. And yeah, folks, stuff is happening. The Center for Political Innovation is moving forward as an organization. And we are moving toward our great national convention that's coming up with all those important guests that I mentioned. People are postering all over Portland, and good things are happening. So I just want you all to know about that. Our community is marching ahead. It's marching ahead. Now, I guess I will get into my, the way these streams work. Just quick reminder for those of you who may not be familiar, any new people here. I mean, you all know it by now, but if there's new people that are watching, I give opening remarks. That's what I do. I talk about whatever it is I want to talk about. Then from there, I do the roll call where I call you all out as I see you, names and location. We find out who is on the other side of the camera. And then from there, I just answer people's questions. So like first on the list of super chats, Battle Cossack, I'll answer his question, right? And I generally do the Rumble rants first. If anyone on Rumble sends a question, then I do Rockfin tips after that. And then I do the super chat. So if you got something you want me to talk about in the second half of our show, by all means, send me a super chat or a Rumble rant or a Rockfin tip, and I will make a point of talking about it. So a couple things on my mind tonight. First things first, why am I not in the city? Well, I'm not in the city because of the fact that I got rushed home to report on what happened today in the U.S. Capitol. Did people see what happened in the U.S. Capitol building today? It's very interesting on a number of different levels. I will pull up some of the video footage of it. It is extremely interesting on many, many different levels. So we know that Israel is bombing Gaza right now. We know that there was a UN Security Council meeting this morning where Russia put forward a resolution for an immediate ceasefire. And one country voted against it, the United States. The United States was the only country to vote against it. Right? Every other country in the world at the or every other country represented in the Security Council voted against or voted in favor or abstained. But Russia voted in favor of a ceasefire and put forward this resolution. It was actually amendments to Brazil's resolution before the Security Council for an immediate ceasefire. And the USA vetoed it because it just supports Israel, basically. It supports Israel's operation. The world is outraged about Israel destroying a hospital that had 500 to 800 civilians in it. It looks like between 500 and 800 civilians were killed, in this incident. So the world is outraged about that. Israel is trying to say that Iran did it. It was a false flag, which is absolutely ridiculous. First they said, well, they had to blow it up because it was a Hamas facility. Then they said, oh, they didn't blow it up. The Hamas and Iran did, which makes no sense. Why would they blow up a hospital in the middle of Gaza? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, the reason I got called home is because there was some pretty big breaking news that happened in the U.S. Capitol. Yeah. So the Jewish Voices for Peace, which is an organization, folks that are not necessarily anti-Israel. Some of them are very strong supporters of Israel, but they also are sympathetic to some of the Palestinian grievances. They are against the settlements, etc. They had a protest outside the U.S. Capitol building that was addressed by Rashida Tlaib, who's a member of Congress, who's a Muslim, and it was it was kind of a rally. And then they apparently went into the U.S. Capitol building, chanting ceasefire now, and about 300 members of Jewish Voices for Peace assembled to protest against the continued bombardment of Gaza, calling for a ceasefire. One of them got arrested pretty roughly there, and apparently there were 300 of them that were arrested in the U.S. Capitol building. Now, this is causing a huge social media reaction because everyone is comparing it to another event that we are all quite familiar with called January 6th, where a bunch of people that were protesting went into the U.S. Capitol and got arrested. And many members of Congress from the Republican side are saying, oh, are you going to send all these people to jail for 20 years because they went into the Capitol? But then other people are saying it appears that unlike January 6th, where I guess January 6th, the doors were kind of open, they were allowed in, but it was, it wasn't, it wasn't like completely allowed. This looks like it was planned, apparently. It looks like Rashida Tlaib and members of Congress made an arrangement with the Capitol Police to enable these people to come in. It looks like this was much more of a, planned demonstration. It was almost kind of conveniently put together by actual members of Congress. But then there were members of Congress that supported January 6th, but not the going into the Capitol part. So this is all raising a lot of questions about legality, right? I mean, if all these people going in to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th was a serious crime, was sedition, was a plot to overthrow the U.S. government, then that raises the question of, well, what about these people? Was this sedition? Was this a plot to overthrow the U.S. government? Well, I'll be honest with you folks. I don't think January 6th was a plot to overthrow the U.S. government. I think it was criminal trespassing. And I don't think that this is a plot to overthrow the U.S. government. I think it's criminal trespassing. Obviously now, to be fair, these people are not engaging in vandalism, from what I understand. They're not destroying property. They are just kind of going in and, being loud and taking up space and refusing to leave when they've been told to leave and getting arrested. But that said, it is similar to January 6th in the sense that they are protesters who went into the U.S. Capitol building. They went into the Capitol Rotunda. They were there, and it looks like maybe they were allowed in to begin with, but then they were ordered to leave. They didn't leave, so then they got arrested. And honestly, though, I will say that some of the right-wing response to this makes sense. I think some of it is completely justified to say, oh, you're going to give these ridiculously long sentences to the January 6th protesters, and you're going to let these people do it, and it's just a routine protest arrest. That is a legit thing to say. But a lot of what was said by conservative members of Congress about this is bullshit. Conservative members of Congress are saying that, this is a terrorist gathering. It's an attempted coup by terrorists. This was not a pro-Hamas crowd. And that is one thing I'm seeing endlessly, right? Endlessly I'm seeing on conservative media is they're saying that anyone who is supportive of the Palestinians in any way is therefore advocating the murder of civilians. And that is not true. And that crowd there, Jewish Forces for Peace, is notorious for the fact that there are many members of it who are pro-Israel. They are just two-state solution. They think there should be a Palestinian state. They think that the settlement activity should be withdrawn, but they are not against Israel's existence. And it's a Jewish organization. So, to call those people in the Capitol Rotunda, as I was seeing all over social media, calling Jewish Voices for Peace pro-Hamas, they are not that. They are not that. They are just not that. They aren't. So there's that. But I don't think that, obviously this was illegal. Civil disobediences tend to be illegal, but I don't think these people should go to jail for 20 years. And I also have said the same thing about January 6th. I think that, protest sometimes involves rowdy activities that are illegal. You know, and I mean, obviously, if you're a nation of laws, criminal trespassing is criminal trespassing, disorderly conduct, whatever. But I don't think these people should go to prison for the rest of their lives. And I don't think January 6th should go to prison for the rest of their lives. And I have spoken up as a leftist against the January 6th sentencing. We at the Center for Political Innovation even put a statement on our website. We put a statement on our website supporting, you know, making clear that the sentence of the anti-abortion protesters in Washington, D.C. Was insane and that they shouldn't have gotten the sentence that they got. And, you know, I am against the police state and I'm in favor of the right to protest. I'm in favor of dissent. And I don't think that civil disobedience should be labeled as terrorism or, you know, should be treated as a serious crime. I think if people go someplace they're not supposed to go, obviously, you know, I don't want people coming into my house who aren't supposed to be there. So you have to have laws against trespassing. But if people engage in trespassing to make a political statement, I don't think that should be a 10-year in prison offense. I just don't. I just don't think that should be the case. So there you go. There you go. That's why I'm at home right now and I'm not in the city. I had to come home and cover that, which I'm glad to do. Very important news story. So I came home. I reported on that. And you'll be seeing my reports about that if you watch RT later today. An important story, and I didn't see it coming. And, you know, I mean, Jewish Voices for Peace tends to be kind of synthetic left or whatever. Fine. I don't care. They did the right thing here, right? This was a good thing, right? Sometimes there can be people that you disagree with that do good things, right? In this case, they did something good. Ceasefire now is what they were calling for. And I think that is correct. And that is Russia's position. At the UN Security Council today, Russia put forward amendments to Brazil's proposed resolution that would call for an immediate ceasefire. And Russia voted for it. And almost the entire UN Security Council, China and others voted for it. A few countries abstained. And then the USA voted against it. And that was crazy. And the USA voted against it because they don't want to tell Israel to stop. I mean, it was a resolution calling for both sides to immediately implement a ceasefire. The United States doesn't want to tell Israel to stop, and they made that blatantly clear. And so, I mean, Russia's amendments to Brazil's resolution were vetoed, and you know, this is another example of the UN Security Council being gridlocked because, you know, every permanent member of the Security Council, the way the UN works, for those of you who don't know, right? And that's okay. They don't teach you this in school, or they should, but they don't. The way the United Nations works is every country is a member state of the United Nations. Now, you have member states, and and they're all part of something called the General Assembly. But the General Assembly of the United Nations doesn't really have that much power. They gather, they pass resolutions, they have a big meeting once a year. That's that. But then you have what is called the Security Council. And the UN Security Council is 15 countries that lead the United Nations. However, the Security Council has rotating members, which is countries that, you know, every member state gets to be on the Security Council here and there. But then you have permanent members of the UN Security Council. And the permanent members of the UN Security Council are the ones that won World War II. Russia, the United States, China, France, Britain. Those are the permanent members of the Security Council. And permanent members of the Security Council can, if they vote no on a resolution, if one permanent member votes no, it's automatically vetoed. That's the way it works. So basically, at the United Nations Security Council, the votes of Russia, China, France, Britain, and America override everybody else's vote. That's generally how it works. The countries that won World War II, the countries that were on the winning side in World War II formed the United Nations. The United Nations was formed, I believe, in San Francisco as World War II was coming to an end. And those countries, basically, they run the United Nations. They have the power. And that's the way the UN tends to work. And many people have pointed out that, number one, it's lopsided. And that, Russia and China are not Western European countries. But the rest are, right? The United States is part of Western capitalist imperialism, France, Britain, and on top of that, it's gridlocked because Russia and China can cancel out anything that France and Britain and America do. And France and Britain and America can cancel anything that Russia and China do. And there's been a lot of talk about how to reform the United Nations. It's important to note, and this is really insane, right? It's very important to note this, that originally, when the UN was formed, the seat belonging to China on the Security Council was held by Chiang Kai-shek and the KMT government, right? It was held by the Republic of China. And after the 1949 Communist Revolution, when the entire Chinese mainland came under the leadership of the Communist Party, Taiwan, which was the only part of China that was still under the control of the KMT government, that section was the one that had a seat in the United Nations until the 1970s. Until the 1970s, China's seat on the UN Security Council was held by the island of Taiwan, in the name of the Republic of China. And can you imagine how insulting that was to a country with millions and millions of people? 1/4 of humanity basically wasn't represented at the Security Council. Instead, you had a tiny island, Taiwan, speaking for the entire Chinese nation. The communists were in power, but the UN said, no, we don't recognize the government on the mainland that has millions and millions and millions of people in it. Instead, we recognize this little island as representing China at the UN and on the UN Security Council, mind you. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And it was Henry Kissinger who was largely responsible for, working to bring and flip it around and make sure that it was the actual People's Republic of China that held the Chinese seat on the UN Security Council. And that was an important development. And that's worth noting as well. But there's been talk of, should they add an African seat as a permanent member of the UN Security Council? That's been one thing that has been proposed. Some people have suggested that, and this, there's been different proposals that have been made. One proposal that has been made that is outrageous, the Ukrainians have been calling for this, and this will never stand, is they've been saying that Russia shouldn't have a seat on the Security Council because the Soviet Union won World War II, not Russia. And that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous, right? But they want to take Russia's seat at the UN Security Council away because the Soviet Union is gone, which is like an absurd thing. Zelensky has called for that many, many times. That's ridiculous. That's just utterly, utterly ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. But it has happened. It has been called for. One thing that did happen that was horrifying is the United Nations expelled Yugoslavia. And Yugoslavia was a founding member state. And under the Clinton administration in the 1990s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, the UN kicked out Yugoslavia. And that was, I believe Yugoslavia was stripped of its UN member state status. And that is insane. Another thing that has happened is, and the U.S. plays games at the UN Security Council. And the UN Security Council has gotten much more contentious because there's been so much playing of games at the UN Security Council. For example, when the Libyan conflict was going on, there was an agreement among the UN Security Council. They passed an arms embargo to Libya. That was all that they passed. They said that no weapons should go into Libya. There's a war going on. So the UN agreed, the UN Security Council passed a resolution for an arms embargo, no new weapons to go to Libya. Russia and China voted for it. Everyone agreed, yeah, there's a war going on in Libya. Gaddafi is fighting against the others. Arms embargo, no weapons into Libya. Fine. The USA used that resolution for an arms embargo on Libya to create a no-fly zone on Libya. Very, very bullshit. They basically said, oh, well, there's an arms embargo and airplanes can be weapons of war. So we will send our Air Force into Libya to remove all the aircraft and enforce a no-fly zone in Libya as a way to be part of the arms embargo. And then NATO started sending cruise missiles. And the USA used what was supposed to be, what was authorized by Russia and China as an arms embargo to conduct regime change and overthrow the Libyan government. And that's some bullshit. That is some bullshit. And Russia and China pointed this out. They said all we ever voted for was no more weapons into Libya to any side. And you used that, you turned it around, and you used that to conduct regime change, and now Libya has been in utter chaos ever since. There's a lot of bullshit that goes on. I don't know. People did people follow the scandal around the UN weapons inspectors and their investigation of chemical weapons in Syria, and how, they did determine that there was chemical weapons used in Syria. However, the samples that the UN received was from a group called the White Helmets. And the White Helmets never proved where they got their samples. And they handed some powder and it's, oh, the White Helmets, they got it from somewhere. Oh, yeah, we got, and that there were many members of the UN weapons inspection team who said, we don't know that this powder was actually found at the site. We don't know that these chemical weapons were actually found at the site. And the UN weapons inspection team never actually visited the site. They just got some powder. They got some samples from the White Helmets, and the samples they had matched Syrian government stuff, weapons that the Syrian government had given up. And so based on that, they declared that the Syrian government had indeed carried out a chemical attack. And Russia came forward and said, this is ridiculous. And then emails were leaked revealing that members of the UN weapons inspection team had objected to the report and said, we did not verify that this is actually from the site. And there were members of the official UN weapons inspection team who said, you're reporting stuff that does not match what we actually proved with our investigation. And emails were leaked showing that members of the actual UN weapons inspection team did not agree with what the UN weapons inspection team was presenting. So there's been a lot of bullshit at the United Nations. A lot of bullshit at the United Nations lately in the last couple of years. And that has raised many people asking about UN reform, etc. So, and they continue to have meetings, and Russia has been doing a great job. They've brought many people to the UN Security Council. Jimmy Dore spoke. Scott, I think, did Scott Ritter? I think Scott Ritter has spoken. Has he spoken? I think he's spoken. They had Garland Nixon recently. It's been great. They've had a number of great people address the UN Security Council. That's been tremendous work. And I mean, look, but at the end of the day, the UN Security Council is pretty gridlocked. Some people are with, some countries with the United States, some countries that aren't. Yes, Max Blumenthal spoke to the UN Security Council. I remember that. That's important. I mean, a lot of great people have. There you go. Yeah. So, it's worth pointing out all these different things. But yeah, so folks, I did want to I did want to, we've done this a few other times. And, sometimes people hop on, sometimes they don't. But, I do want to open the phones a little bit tonight. I actually want to do that. I want to open the phones, as they say. That's what they call it in the radio. There's no phones, right? I mean, I'm opening up the stream. I want to open up the stream a little bit because I think that's actually a lot of fun when we bring the audience in. I'm not going to do it for too long. I do want to answer people's super chat questions. I have some super chats to answer, and I've got other stuff to deal with. But I do want to open up the stream. If anyone wants to hop on and give me kind of their opinion or whatever, the stream is open. There's the link. You can join the stream. I'll drop it in the Rumble. I'll drop it in the Rockfin. If you got a webcam or you got a phone with a camera on it or whatever, you can jump on. I have to be able to see your face. That's one of the first rules. And if there gets to be funny business or whatever, it can end real quick, and I can just remove you from the stream. You have to have a shirt on. That's one rule. There was a guy, there was a guy who at first didn't have a shirt. I said, put a shirt on. He put a shirt on. He came on. But I have certain rules about it, right? But yeah, join the stream. If you want to engage with me, you want to be part of the conversation, you can join the stream. I am always happy to have people on. So I thought I'd open the phones a little bit. I'm going to do this more often. I feel like we want to be more of a community here. I really do appreciate you all coming on, every night to watch me talk, but bringing people on. Yeah. Bringing people on to give me their 2 cents, to talk about what's on their mind. It's open. So if you want to hop on in the next little bit, you're welcome to. You are welcome to hop on. You have to be 18, I think. Somebody said, well, what if I'm not 18? I said, I don't want to get in trouble for having minors on here just because, I use my my judgment, right? There might be somebody who doesn't get through. I kind of have to screen it myself, and I can end it at any time, right? You say the wrong thing, you're out of here. It's not like that. I generally like to talk to people, but I like to open up the phones. So I'm opening up the phones, just like on a classic old-fashioned radio show. What is it? There's an old Saturday Night Live routine. I think it's John Belushi. Is that who it is? Is it John Belushi? And he's all like, where this is where you talk to me, something like that, right? You talk to me, right? And he says like offensive things to try and get people to call into the show or something, right? It's like a crazy thing. Oh, I think we ought to have Soviet communism over here, right? Forced busing, I don't know. It's just a random, but there you go. There you go. Is it Dan Aykroyd who did that? Maybe it's Dan Aykroyd. Maybe it's Dan Aykroyd. But there you go. If you want to hop on, you can hop on. Hopping on is allowed. Yeah, it's the phone lines are open, as they say. So I just want to let people know, if you want to hop on, you can do that. But folks, I've had some good conversations with people. We are moving toward our December 2nd conference. It's going to be really, really amazing, and good things are happening. And I've been having some good conversations with people. And I got to say, social media, it is completely toxic. It is not good for your mental health at all. As much as I have to be on it, right? Because this is my job and I'm on here and this is our community, right? It's our way we can stay in touch. Social media is very toxic, and social media isn't real. Social media is not real at all. It is just so obnoxious dealing with people on there. And I have learned to start muting people. If people start, talking about stuff I don't want to hear about, mute. People, and people often ask me why I block people so much on Twitter. Easy, right? If you talk shit about me or you like posts where people are talking shit about me, I block you, right? That's it. I don't feel if people are going to talk smack, if people are going to be negative, I don't owe them anything, right? I don't owe them anything. I really don't. So, if people don't want to be there, if people are being negative, if people are being hostile, like, why do I owe them anything? I don't. I don't owe them anything if they're going to be obnoxious. And I've heard a story about Joe Louis, the boxer. And it's a story that I actually have thought about many times. I really appreciate it. The boxer Joe Louis. The story is that he was in a fancy restaurant with his girlfriend one night. You know, um, and he was in a fancy restaurant one night. And he was this famous boxer. And this guy saw him and walked over to him and started like pushing him and insulting him and calling him names and stuff. And he just sat there and continued eating his meal, just completely ignored the guy. And the guy was just anxious. He was trying to get a response out of Joe Louis. And Joe Louis just continued eating his meal, just ignored him. The guy was pushing him and all that. And finally, the guy just gave up and walked away. And there were many people who saw this and they said, "You are the heavyweight champion of the world. Why did you not just fight the guy? I mean, he was touching you. He was harassing you. You had every right to throw a punch." And he said, if there was a great opera singer sitting in the restaurant and someone started harassing them, would they get up and sing for them? If Leonardo da Vinci was sitting in the restaurant and some asshole was harassing them, would he paint a picture for the person? It was actually quite interesting. But he was making the point that Joe Louis, he was a fighter. That was his job. He was a boxer. So if he had punched this guy, he would be using his great skill. He would be giving this guy the great skill that he'd be demonstrating and using his great skill on this guy. Plus, that would give that guy the bragging rights that he had fought Joe Louis. He'd fought with Joe Louis. And I've thought about that a lot because, if you respond to somebody, it's a compliment. It's a compliment. If you fight with somebody, if you give somebody the time of day, it's a compliment. You're saying you are worthy of my attention. And I think about that story a lot because it's like I try to not give idiots my attention. But I also think about that story in light of, I'm not even going to get specific. In light of the fact that there have been certain people who agree with us or pretend to agree with us, aren't that deep, but pretend to kind of agree with what we say on here, but don't really know what they're talking about. Not going to get specific. Who've gotten highlighted by some very interesting forces. Very interesting. And I don't want to get into specifics. I think you all know what I'm talking about. But there's certain people, certain individuals that clearly don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but have taken aspects of our message here and then just been appointed voices for anti-imperialism when they don't understand it, when they can't explain even what Lenin's theory of imperialism is, but they've just been boosted up there. And they've been highlighted all of a sudden by all kinds of people that we don't agree with, very hostile forces have decided of all the people to tweet back at, of all the people to respond to, they're going to respond to them. Very interesting, isn't it? Very, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting indeed. And that's not an accident, right? Who you tweet back at, even if you insult them, is a decision. Look, Dave Smith, the libertarian. Not my favorite guy, but him tweeting back at me, I appreciate. It is a compliment. He's saying, I consider you worthy of a response. Right? And he has tweeted back at me many times, Dave Smith. And I don't think that's necessarily just because I get under his skin. I think that Dave Smith, to some degree or other, sees me as worth engaging with, right? He sees me as worth engaging with, and he wants to highlight me while disagreeing with him. This is how these things work. And people should be aware of this. right? People should pay attention to this, that a lot of things that you see there's more to it than there appears. Right? And this is something to be aware of. That a lot of times there's a lot more to what you're seeing than what you see. I mean, it's, what's that old thing that people used to talk about, how professional wrestling was fake? Right? I think didn't one of those guys, and please somebody jump on if you want to jump on. The lines are open. Professional wrestling was fake, right? Right? At some point they proved it, but everyone kind of knew it anyway, right? That professional wrestling was theater. It was performance art. That the outcomes of the fights were planned. It was a show. I believe there was John Stossel got punched. John Stossel got punched by a wrestler. Yeah, I think this is right. Yeah, a very famous moment in television when John Stossel. Yeah, here it is. John Stossel. I'll put the clip on. Very short clip. John Stossel, the reporter, got punched by a professional wrestler. I'll put that clip on. This was kind of a famous moment in television. 1988. Wow. Long time ago. I didn't realize John Stossel was that old. John Stossel he's a Fox News conservative. He used to be on NBC. He did kind of edgy libertarian shows about, is America still number one? And, this is, I guess, the wrestler David Schultz assaulted John Stossel, a very famous television incident that happened. Getting some echo. Getting some echo there. But anyway, I'll put on the clip of the wrestler David Schultz, who attacked John Stossel, right? David Schultz here. Just waiting for the clip to come up. It was kind of a famous moment in American television. There's a couple moments like that were big. I think in the 80s, there was a lot of like sensational TV moments that were big. But yeah, if I can just get this clip to come up here, I'll show the famous moment. I don't know why it takes so long for these clips to load. Like, here we go. All right, very famous.
Wrestling ring led to this real-life brutality.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You come. Easy. Huh? What do you mean? Fake.
Yeah. That's the danger of being a reporter, right? He was the Iron Sheik. I didn't know he was the Iron Sheik, but that makes sense. He's the Iron Sheik, right? His character was like he was Middle Eastern, and yeah, I mean it's dangerous to ask tough questions. When you ask somebody a question they don't want to answer,
and fake violence in the wrestling ring led to this real-life brutality.
I think this is fake.
You think it's fake? What's that? Is that fake? Huh? What the hell's wrong with you? That's open hand slap, huh? You think it's fake? You come. Easy. Huh? What do you mean? Fake.
Yeah, right. That guy did not particularly enjoy being asked if wrestling was fake, but there's a lot of things in this world that are like professional wrestling, but not fully that blatant, right? With professional wrestling, it was proven, right, that it was completely staged. They knew who was going to win the matches ahead of time, etc. But there's a lot of things in life I've noticed that aren't that blatant. Like, it's not like they're actually rigging the game, but there's a lot of theater that goes on, especially in politics. Two politicians will agree to have a feud. Netanyahu and Obama, both. I don't know if they ever had a meeting and planned it, but it was very clear that both of them really, really benefited from fighting each other. That was really, really clear. And I think that Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC have a similar relationship. I think that MTG and AOC, I think that whether it's official, whether they've actually sat down and planned it, or whether it's just something they both realize, you know, they both benefit from fighting each other. And you see this in politics a lot, right? You know, figures who fight with another political figure, and it is to their mutual benefit. You know, and I think we've all seen this before. I mean, it happens, right? It's something that we've all observed, and that it's just part of. I'm sorry about that. You know, I just posted the link for the Sheik. I was trying to join the stream, and I ended up posting the link for do you think wrestling is fake? But there you go. But yeah, I'll post the link if anyone wants to join the stream. The lines are open. You know, but crazy things are happening. Crazy things are happening. Crazy things are happening. If you'd like to join the stream, if you want to join the stream and give me your opinion about world events, please go ahead. Although I don't like him, Stossel didn't deserve to get beaten like that, and I agree with you. You know, John Stossel, his programming generally drives me up the wall. You know, and I sat through watching his you know, his edgy NBC series. You know, Is America #1 or whatever. You know, I mean, let's just see what, I mean, you know, it was frustrating. And he, you know, like he tried to use Hong Kong as an argument for free markets. And it's like, it's so clear that Hong Kong, you know, I mean, it's like, you want to talk about state involvement in the economy. And then, you know, I mean, in the 80s, when he was saying that, the drug trade was such a big aspect. A lot of John Stossel's material, I find to be obnoxious. I'll be honest with you. And it's just generally obnoxious. But that said, I mean, you know, you should, as a reporter, you should be able to ask somebody a question and not get assaulted. But yeah, I mean, just for the fun of it, right? What is John Stossel talking about right now? You know, well, here's John Stossel interviewing on the defense of capitalism. We'll just put this on. I'll react to a John Stossel program right now, since we're talking about these things, right? Here we go. I love this. It's like free associating, right? We're sitting here and it's like we're talking about professional, you know, people on the internet fighting with each other in a theatrical way. And so now we're pulling up a John Stossel. I just looked at John Stossel's YouTube channel. He's a big libertarian, promoter of free market capitalism. He's got an interview. Yeah, Yaron Brook in defense of capitalism. We'll put that on, see if it's worth responding to. He's probably got some other stuff on his channel it's worth responding to. So I'm downloading that. We'll just see what John Stossel's putting out there. Right now, John Stossel is not the guy who did Al Capone's safe. Al Capone's safe was done by Geraldo Rivera, and that was like, people talked about how much of a letdown that was. But it was like they found Al Capone's safe, and it was this big sensational thing live on the air. They were going to open it up and see what was inside. And what was inside was not, there was like nothing inside. It was like, what did they find, papers or something? It was like one of the biggest like letdowns in American television. They cut open the safe. It was Al Capone's safe. Find out what's inside Al Capone's safe. And, you know, wasn't much there. So, there you go. But yeah, let me see. We'll see if this piece by John Stossel is worth responding to. If not, we might find another piece by John Stossel to respond to. But there you go. And if you want to hop on, give me a piece of your mind. You know, always good to have people hop on. People are welcome to hop on. The phones are open, to use the radio slang. But yeah, let's pull up the John Stossel piece. We can react to it. Right? In defense of capitalism.
Wrecked by the super rich?
The super rich. Who are they and what are they doing to us?
What are they doing to us? Whatever it is, people say that just the fact that the rich have so much is itself immoral.
Immoral and wrong that the top 1/10 of 1% in this country own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%.
Is that a moral outcome in and of itself?
It's not. It's not. And
they want to condemn the people that actually have moved civilization forward.
Well, see, they kind of have a point here, right? And this is, you should read this book by Karl Marx called The Critique of the Goethe Program. We are not interested in redistributing income. We are interested in changing the way the means of production operate. We're interested in changing property relations. And Karl Marx makes this clear. Socialism is not the redistribution of income or wealth. Socialism is rather changing the nature of the economy so profits are not in command. It's public ownership of the means of production. So right there, I mean, he's arguing against progressive taxation. He's arguing against the welfare state. And that, yes, if you're going to start redistributing income, that's going to be an argument about envy, right? And then, people argue that would take away incentive. And this is not about Marxism, right? So right now, this isn't about capitalism, because you can have a heavy taxation rate to give people free healthcare and stuff, and it's still capitalism, right? You can, so this is already, we're not talking about capitalism. He's arguing against a welfare state, right? This is Margaret Thatcher, right? Socialism doesn't work because eventually you run out of other people's money. The Bolsheviks didn't run out of other people's money when they turned Russia into a superpower. China did not run out of other people's money. If all Mao had done is redistribute money that was already there, China would still be poor. All Stalin had done is redistribute money that was already there. The Soviet Union never would have industrialized. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. This is an argument about taxes, right? So already we've realized that we're dealing with liberal envy. We're dealing with anti-Keynesianism, the argument that we don't need government intervention into the economy. Already this has nothing to do with Marxism, because Karl Marx makes clear in Critique of the Goethe Program, we're not interested in redistributing income. We're interested in changing property relations, and that we're not against wealth. We want wealth in society to maximize. We are just in favor of rationally organizing the means of production in order to do so.
John Brooke of the Ayn Rand Institute's annoyed.
Oh, boy.
Today's
the Ayn Rand Institute. This is going to be fun.
Democratic socialists say rich people got rich by taking money from others. In fact, they
actually improved the standard of living for everybody on the planet.
How is that?
Really? Really? The owners of Goldman Sachs improved the standard of living for everyone on the planet. The owners of ExxonMobil, the huge oil company, they improved things for everyone on the planet. Really, really. No. And this is, let's hear them out. Let's hear them out.
Possible. How could it improve everyone's living standard? Isn't there a fixed amount of money in the world?
No, there's not a fixed amount of money in the world. No. Again, Marx never argued that.
When rich people grab a lot, there's less for everyone else?
No. In fact, human beings are constantly moving to a more rational, higher mode of production so that the amount of wealth in society constantly increases. This is not what Marxists ever argued. We don't argue this way.
No, because wealth can be created.
We have basically made about...
Yes. Read what Marx wrote. When the springs of cooperative wealth flow more abundantly. This has nothing to do with what we argue.
$2 a day for 100,000 years. In other words, we could eat what we farmed, and that was it. And then something amazing happened about 250 years ago.
A few countries tried capitalism. For the first time, people were allowed to profit from...
Yes, capitalism was an advance over feudalism, and feudalism was an advance over slavery, and slavery was an advance over hunter-gatherer situation. There's nothing contrary to Marxism in any of this.
Private property. That changed everything.
Well, to be fair, there was like mass genocide to create it, right? You do remember like the clearing of the highlands and the mass executions of vagabonds and the creation of capitalism, what they call primitive accumulation, involved millions of people being killed. It involved, colonialism of the Americas. It involved the transatlantic slave trade. The rosy dawn of capitalism, primitive accumulation, was a very, very bloody process. Now, it did lead to a higher mode of production existing. And I mean, obviously, capitalism is better than feudalism. But don't pretend it wasn't a bloody, bloody process.
Division of labor let people produce more with less, and then they traded to get even more. Wealth increased with every innovation.
Cargo transported by ship used to be stored in barrels, in sacks, in wooden crates, and offloaded by hand.
Economist Don Boudreau points out that enormous wealth was even created by the invention of the shipping container.
With it came a wave of specialized technology that dramatically increased the productivity of shipping. Workers today are superhuman compared to their brethren of yesteryear.
Yeah, and why don't we get paid for it? If we're superhuman in comparison to our brethren of yesteryear, why don't we get paid for it? Why don't we get paid more than we used to get paid? Why is it that the advance of technology has led to us getting paid less and less and less, even though our labor is more and more productive? How about that?
We went from carrying bags on our backs to lifting the equivalent of 2 school buses with mere flicks of our wrists.
Most of this innovation,
yes, and this innovation has led to fewer and fewer workers getting hired,
began just 250 years ago.
250 years ago, we suddenly discovered the value of individual freedom. We suddenly discovered the value of leaving individuals free to think, to innovate, to produce without asking for permission, without getting the state to sign off on it. And we call that the Industrial Revolution.
Industrialists, the people who owned the factories, employed hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. And they made enormous profits.
And how does that benefit your fellow man?
And ever since, politicians have complained about those profits. In Ayn Rand's novel, Atlas Shrugged, state officials demand that industrialists...
That's a fictional novel. Dude, you're talking about a fictional novel.
Explain how they're getting rich helped others.
I do not owe you an answer, but I could tell you in 100 ways. Thousands of jobs, billions in revenue, fueling our economy despite your efforts.
Hank Rearden was right. Capitalism created new wealth.
Nobody disagrees with this. Read the opening of the Communist Manifesto. It's all about how capitalism was a great breakthrough and advance over feudalism. It's like anyone who knows anything about Marxism is not surprised by anything. Am I supposed to be going here, whoa, you mean capitalism was better than feudalism? I never knew that.
Much, much, much richer. And it's hard to imagine how much richer we got. Of electricity, of running water, the things we all take for granted today, but we didn't have 150 years ago. And yes, some people complain about inequality, but everybody got richer. Even the poor got richer.
In the past several...
Nobody disagrees with any of this.
100 years, we've gone from a society where people hoped to get jobs that required long hours of hard manual labor to one where almost everyone has what they need to live, and more people have leisure time to do things like watch movies.
How is any of this a defense of capitalism?
Wizard Harry. I mentioned Harry Potter because Brooke bought lots of Harry Potter books, but he says he's not poorer for it.
J.K. Rowling became a billionaire, and I got poorer by thousands of dollars. And yet, nobody really thinks of themselves as poorer for having read Harry Potter. It made my kids happy. How much is that worth? So I'm actually better off for having spent those many dollars on those books.
Under capitalism, that applies to every transaction because capitalism, unlike socialism, is voluntary.
Like a pretzel.
Oh, it's totally voluntary. Yes, absolutely. Totally voluntary. You know, people who work for their bosses, they could just starve and have no job, right? Your employer never has any power over you. You can just quit at any time, right? You know, I mean, all these McDonald's workers who make, minimum wage, they're just stupid because they could just quit and get another job. I mean, this is like anyone who's lived a working class life knows what bullshit this kind of thing is. Capitalism is purely voluntary, no coercion whatsoever. Bosses never have any coercive power over their employees. Oh God, here we go.
We see this every time we buy something. The seller's there for his own self-interest, and so am I. So why do we both say, thank you, thank you? Because he wanted the dollar more than he wanted the pretzel. I wanted the pretzel more than the dollar.
Yeah,
the transaction...
That's totally like what every... that's student debt is like. That. Oh, yeah, every transaction is just a smiley face, totally voluntary.
Doesn't happen unless both of us think we win. And that way, Voluntary transactions create wealth.
Thank you.
Thank you. Since the Industrial Revolution,
we have more than doubled our life expectancy. We have dramatically increased the quality of our life, and we are wealthier than anybody could have imagined.
Made possible by private property and capitalism, which people hate.
People don't like it because, it takes real responsibility.
What about the labor movement that won the wages and the representation of workers on the job?
Responsibility over your own life to achieve something. And unfortunately, our educational system has taught us that since we don't sacrifice enough, because we're basically too self-interested to sacrifice enough, the state must now intervene and force us to sacrifice for our fellow man.
And that belief that sacrificing for others is more moral is what gives socialism strength.
No, it's not. No. Socialism is not just about kindergarten and sharing.
It's not so tough to share your stuff.
That's not what, this is just a giant straw man. But I could do this all night. But it looks like I got a couple people that actually do want to hop on. So Gabby is here. Gabby is coming on. Gabby is a great friend of our program. Gabby, how you doing?
Hello. I'm good. My
son
just fell asleep, so I'm good.
Oh, okay. Very good.
How are you? How's everybody? I hope everybody's good.
All but well. Patria or muerte, right? That's the Cuban.
Yeah, Patria o muerte. Yeah, I made that last year because I was feeling depressed, and it kind of made me feel happier and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I always wake up hopeful. Like the first thing I see, I'm like, okay, we gotta do this. So it's always good to be optimistic and stuff like that. So
how are things in Chicago? I heard you went to the Palestine rally.
Yeah, it was good. It was I kind of got into it, and I'm like, yeah, it kind of, once you kind of get the hang of seeing the energy, you see it. But then I'm like, in the same time, I'm like, I kind of want to just go in the masses, like with real working people as well. Like, it's kind of pointless to just go where you feel comfortable. You have to feel uncomfortable, to kind of just get in there and like just try to talk to regular folk. Because I feel like, I don't know, this has been my week into speaking. Like, this is our time to shine, I feel like. Because with the whole situation with Gaza and the whole war and everything, like, this is our time to shine, to kind of just lay out the truth and the facts that we've been knowing for a long time. So it's like, I've been kind of just saying stuff to people, and they're like, oh, really? Like, they don't know. They actually don't know. They've been, reading what the media tells them. And I'm all like, it's not that. It's the Zionist, like, mentality. It's that. And it's like, I don't know, it's just random, but like, I'm thinking of the kids that have been seeing everything in, Palestine and Gaza or whatever. And it's like, imagine the outcome of all of this horrendous things that happens to them, like what happens in their psyche, like they're going to create so much different, like a generation of children that are mentally ill and mentally sick. And it's like, we're creating this, like, is illnesses like everywhere. So it's like, that's the next thing that I'm thinking about of the outcome of this whole war is the survivors. It's like, it's PTSD, and like, it's crazy. So that's, I'm like, and I don't know, people who, I don't know, Biden, I don't know, people in our government, like, they just don't give a crap. So it's like, kind of like, it feels helpless sometimes, but then I'm like, as long as I have God with me, everything's gonna be okay. That's how I've been feeling, But yeah.
Yeah, well, no, it looks like pretty soon I'm going to interview a local Palestinian guy here in New York City who lost his job for being pro-Palestine. And like, he can prove it. He's getting his thoughts together. He's going to come on the show.
Oh, nice.
And talk about it. But I mean, it's shocking.
Yeah.
I'm also getting reports from the local Muslim community. The FBI is knocking on people's doors and trying to scare them from going to Palestine rallies, saying to them, oh, this rally might be funded by Hamas. You could be cooperating with terrorism by going to this rally, blah, 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 blah. It's pretty heavy what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's a lot of fear tactics. And like, my sister, she's like, oh, don't go, because like, might be some like attacks and blah blah blah. I'm like, we can't be afraid. I don't know. I'm not afraid anymore. Like, even after death, we're the truth tellers. So it's like we're always gonna be and we're gonna be beyond. It's like it's better for what is in this earth. We gotta just look what's beyond there. So it's like don't be scared and just always stick with your guns. And it's like they always have these fear tactics, and I'm really tired of them. So sorry, I'm like kind of like ranting, but like it's just like we're not scared of anything. We've been through so much, and it's like like we could do it, man. We got this.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
No, we got to stay optimistic. We got to keep going. But yeah. So there you go. Anything else on your mind tonight?
Let's see, what do I have in my mind tonight? I kind of wanted to read something, but
Go ahead.
it's this book that I have. It's like prayers and promises for healing.
Okay.
And it has like Jesus quotes and stuff like that. But like I kind of was reading hold on. There's this page, and it's like they have every section of like a type of prayer of every like for addiction, for this and that. So I have one for justice, and like I'll just read a little bit. It says, whether we put words to it or not, all of us have a sense of justice deep deep down within us. When we hear of horrific things someone has done to the innocent, no one thinks that person should be forgiven and go on with life. Something inside of us rises up and wants to see justice. We may not want God's love to touch every person, even those who do horrific acts, but there is something within us that wants justice. We are people who crave justice. The Bible presents God as a God of justice too. In fact, the desire that we have to see justice in the world comes from being made in an image of God. Jesus was a man who came to earth and demonstrated what justice looked like. He gave justice to the poor, and he made fair decisions for the exploited. If an injustice has been done to you, then know what the desire you feel for justice was placed there by God. And he is the one who is going to have justice in the final day. God tells us not to retaliate for what has been done to us, but rather to trust him because he promised that he would take vengeance on all our enemies. Trust in God's justice today.
All right. Well, there you go. That's inspiring. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I hope everybody has a great day, a great night, and like keep fighting the fight, you guys. So we can't give up.
Well, very good. Always good to hear from you, Gabby. All my best to you and your family.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Gabby. And now Gonzalo's back. Battle Cossack.
Hey, Caleb. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm echoing.
Yeah, kind of. My voice is echoing. Let me see this.
Yeah.
That's better.
No, it's just whenever I talk, it echoes on your end.
Oh. Let's see. It's probably this stuff because I'm also on my computer.
Yeah,
I'm using it to share you some videos.
Mute your computer. So it doesn't echo back.
Okay. I think that's good.
Nope. I'm still echoing.
Fuck.
Mute me. Yeah.
See.
So you don't hear my voice.
Okay, it's working now.
Maybe put some headphones on. Lori's always there. Good advice. Put some headphones.
I'm doing it. Wait. This. Okay.
How about now? Nope, I'm still echoing.
Echoing.
Yeah.
Well, let me. I'm gonna exit.
It's not
Exit.
canceling out.
Exit. Then a minute.
Oh, and then he just jumped out. So maybe he'll figure it out and jump back in. But yeah, well, we can bring him back on. He just needs to figure out his technical situation. It was great to hear from Gabby. Great to hear from Gonzalo. And if he pops back in. All right, we'll tell you what. Why don't we do our roll call? Names and locations, folks. And then I'll start answering people's super chats. But if people still want to jump on, the stream is still open. So people can still jump on. But yeah, let's do names and locations, folks. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Fakio from Montreal. Hello, everyone, says Omar Rana. Very, very good. Names and locations. Johnny Bravo from San Diego. Welcome, Johnny Bravo. Scott in Miami is with us. Bendigo, Australia. David Fox is with us. Welcome, David. Nick from Daphne, Alabama. Welcome. Names and locations. Gabby in Chicago, we just saw you, and you were great. Great, beautiful prayer you shared with us. Tony from Pennsylvania. Martin from Mary Rose Sank. Very good. Colin in Greensboro. Patch in Arizona. Welcome, Patch. Oslo. Wow, Simon, it must be late in Norway. It must be very, very, very late. Okay. All right. Must be very, very late in Norway. Patrick in Maine. Micah in Las Vegas. Gerardo from Puerto Rico. Rice from Adelaide, Australia is with us tonight. Names and locations. On the Rumble, we've got Kevin in North Carolina, and we got Ryan Clark in Kansas City. Very, very good. Very, very, very good. Very, very good. All right. Joshua in Illinois. A better America in Michigan. Jenny in Cincinnati. Anthony in Detroit. Killian in Milwaukee. Names and locations. Mary Rose was a famous boat, and it sank in Southampton, UK. It's a song that I'm going to sing. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. All righty. Names and locations. Yeah, we don't have any Rumble rants yet, so I won't have to do that. Ellie Marino in Chicago is on the Rockfin. Shout out to you, Ellie. And great super chat about the Catholic Church and the negative role it played in Latin America earlier. Marta in Poland. It must be late in Poland, Marta, but I'm glad you're watching. Jamie Turner in Boise, Idaho. Finn in Duluth. Welcome, Finn. Welcome. All righty. Well, we got a few super chats here to answer. Judy and David in Nevada City. Okay. Welcome, Judy and David. Good to have you with us. I'm going to start answering people's super chats. I do want to remind people that if you are coming to our amazing conference coming up in Portland, Oregon, which I know a lot of you are planning to do. I know a lot of you are going to be there. We would like you to register on the Eventbrite if you can, right? So please go ahead and register on the Eventbrite. I will drop the Eventbrite link in the chat. Please go ahead and register on the Eventbrite. Register for the event. Donations are appreciated as well, but please register so we can keep track of who is coming. Register if you plan to be there. Very good. It's so late in Poland that it's early, actually. She's smiling. There you go. So yeah, we've got 5 super chats here to answer, but any question you want me to answer, by all means, just send a super chat. We got 5 of them to answer here before we finish the show. But now I'm going to bring Gonzalo back on. So how's it going, Gonzalo? Did you figure out the echo?
Shit. Yeah, yeah. No echo. This time no echo.
Yeah. Yeah, no
Oh,
echo.
well.
We're good. We're good. No
Yeah,
echo. You're all set.
perfect. So, yeah, here I am in my cat.
Okay. What's the cat's name?
It's Callan. Callan is from a cat.
Okay.
From a character from a character from an anime show or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, everything going good as it can be. One of the things I wanna highlight maybe is that elections here in Argentina are coming.
Yes.
Coming. In December 22.
Yes.
Yeah, December 22. Yeah. It's getting closer. And the situation is kind of wild.
Yeah.
I'll say. I say. On
Yeah,
one
you sent me
hand,
this
you have
video you want me to show, right?
that's basically Javier Milei is one of those.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put this video on.
The
link is
it's
it's
crazy.
downloading as we speak.
Milei basically became kind of extremist,
Mm-hmm.
and he's doing some crazy stuff, and I mean literally crazy. Just watch that.
And what party is he from?
Well, he originally was from the libertarian Avanza la Libertad, but he has split. That was the party of Luis Espert, but there was a problem with the name. He wanted to say La Libertad Avanza, but there was some disagreements on that, so he made his own party. And interesting fact, he's been selling out some candidatures to people. He's selling positions in his party.
Mm-hmm.
Selling positions to random people, to anyone who has the money.
Wow.
And there was some controversy about that.
Yeah.
And also, but not less important, there's been appearing certain facts that he has been funded by drug cartels in Mexico,
Wow.
especially this this organization called Yunque. It's like a evangelical far right group who
Okay.
who sponsor the groups. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna put this video on. Here we go.
Yeah, it shows what it is one of his rallies. Yeah, he's like a chainsaw.
That looks kind of dangerous.
Yeah, it's kind of dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should be more careful with power tools. You know, I was a kid. We used a chainsaw to sometimes to cut wood or whatever. But that's a little bit dangerous. I mean, it does have like a cover over the blade, thank goodness. But
yeah, from what I understand, the idea is that the chainsaw represents the cut he's gonna do to the budget of the state because he's libertarian, he's against the state. He says, "Oh, the state is we must eliminate the state, the middle class, la casta política. Son unos chorros, thieves. They must go. Oh, Kirchner he's a thief." Yeah, he supported the lawfare that they did to her,
mm-hmm.
and And the way he got this much popularity is that he 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 appeals to the anger of much of the Argentinian people, and he appeals to to this anger that people have, which is
Sure.
kind of resembling what happened in 2001 when the economic crisis occurred and the economy collapsed and the government of the alliance couldn't do it. That was in 2001, December 2001, and there was mass riots that ended up toppling the government of President de la Rua, who was a who's from the Partido de la Alianza. Okay, I think it was. I think it was like a radical or something like that. But yeah, he's appealing to that kind of destructive attitude that much Argentinians are feeling because right now things are getting bad. There's a lot of insecurity, as I said, and much Argentinians are afraid of going just going to streets because they could get robbed or something. So you gotta. So he's appealing to that, and the reason that's the main reason he got that much popularity in the first place. And also, second, I think it was also this like propaganda that he got from certain YouTubers like I remember there was this guy La Galera. He supported him back in 2018 when he said he hated politics. He didn't want to be involved in it, but then he changed and there was a split with his partner. I remember his name, but yeah, yeah, it makes like crazy. It's like yeah, it's I don't know, it's crazy, but yeah, it's a special individual,
Yeah. All right.
and
Well,
every
thanks. Yeah. Thank you, Gonzalo, for the update, letting us know about that. Do you think he's going to win?
yeah, yeah, I'm sure for one. I think not because there was like the debate. We had like the debate, and a few weeks ago, and he really showed to be. So he was much more calm than he usually is. He usually talks in this angry tone, like we're gonna destroy the state. Viva libertad, carajo! That no, he sounded more calm, but still he didn't show any ideas, and that the debate basically just ruined his image,
Mhm.
and also the image of the liberal of the neoliberal party, Juntos
All
por
right.
el Cambio, which Patricia Bullrich basically become much more. He's taking a much more. ¿Cómo era? He's taking a much more authoritarian position, which about insecurity, about sending the military to the provinces to end and it's crazy. But I think it's in that situation. I think the most probable winner is Sergio Massa, the candidate for Uno por la Patria.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, very
I
good.
really I did disagree with Massa in some points because though he's from a party that has its roots on anti-imperialism. He is kind of more so neutral. He negotiates with the U.S. and the IMF, and I don't think you can I don't think you can get anything good from United States at this point. It is well known that United States tricks countries and use blackmail a lot. But overall, I think Massa it's the least bad at all. I think it's
All
the
right.
best.
Well,
The
very
best.
good, Gonzalo,
If,
and thank you for the update.
yeah,
All the best wishes. I know you'll keep us up to date on everything in the election and everything in Argentina. So it's always
yeah,
good to hear from you. Best
yeah,
wishes on everything. Thanks for sharing that video from us. That was wild, that chainsaw. So thanks for
yeah,
everything, and we'll talk
yeah.
again soon. We'll have you back. All right. Thank you, Gonzalo. All righty. So we do have a Rumble rant to answer because now we're in the second half of our show where I answer questions. So if anyone's got any more questions to ask, I'm just going to go down the list and start answering questions. We do have a Rumble rant. What is it you say to people who say that if you don't like the United States, then you should leave? Well, I got a number of things I can say to that. First of all, I do like the United States. This is my country. I love America. I'm a socialist because I want to save America, not because I want to destroy America. Socialism is about jobs and healthcare and education. It's about paving the roads. It's about public control of our natural resources, public control of banking, breaking us out of this criminal international financial system that is making the world poor and making us poorer in order to enrich a small group of international monopolies and bankers. So, first of all, everything we do is motivated by love for the country. That's the first thing. Second of all, right? If I were to become an expat, right? Who would do the important work? What communists do in America is really, really important, right? What we do here is vital, right? People around the world pay very close attention. Communist groups in the United States aren't very big, but we get a huge amount of attention when we go to international festivals because we are in the center of the empire. And the work that we do here is so vitally important. They got plenty of communists in North Korea. They got plenty of communists in South America. They got plenty of communists in Europe. We need communists here, and we need them badly. That's my second point. My third point, well, gee, why didn't George Washington just move to some other country? Because he didn't like the British Empire running things. You know, George Washington, I mean, he didn't like the British Empire running the country, so he should have just moved somewhere else. He should have just left the country. Oh, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he didn't like Jim Crow. Well, he should just leave the country instead of, I mean, this is a silly, silly thing, right? The whole beauty of America's democratic system is supposed to be that we have the ability to change our government. What did Thomas Jefferson say? That the people have the right to overthrow, amend, or abolish their government. I mean, this is basic. On the Rockfin, we got a question. Could President Millet stop entry into BRICS? That's from Ellie Marino, and we'll get to that. But you know, I mean, so that whole thing, I've heard that my whole life. If you don't like it here, why don't you move to some other country? That's just a stupid neoconservative trope. You could say that to anyone who disagrees with anything in the government, number one. Number two, it is our duty as Americans to be constantly demanding that our government give us a better shake, etc. Three, being a communist here is so important. We need communists in America more than we need communists in other countries. You know, we should be lucky that we're here because we have such a big responsibility in the center of the empire. And number, I mean, it's just about a bunk argument. But thank you for asking, Delta V. It is important to know how to respond to that, right? Because if somebody comes at you, well, if you're a communist, you should just leave this country. Well, actually, no. If you're a communist, you have a very important task here in this country to make it better, right? And just like we got this country the weekend, just like we got women the right to vote, we have a very, very, very important task to do here in this country. We've done a lot. We got this country on the right side of World War II. We helped defeat the Nazis. You know, we did some pretty good stuff in the history of this country. We were key in the battle to abolish slavery. We ought to keep doing it. So there you go. We are as American as apple pie, and we have an absolute right to exist. Now, Ellie, this is Ellie on the Rockfin asked, could a President Millet stop entry into the BRICS? And I don't know the answer to that, Ellie. I just don't know the answer. I assume he could, but would he want to? I mean, often libertarians tend to like things that are against the IMF and the World Bank. They think the IMF and the World Bank are socialist. You know, libertarians often will take interesting positions on international blocks and alignments. A lot of libertarians support Assange. So I don't know for a fact that this guy would necessarily be anti-BRICS. He might be, though. He might be. I mean, the way he's running around with his chainsaw talking against the state, I mean, that doesn't look good to me. I don't like the looks of that guy. So there you go. There you go. Now I'm going to start answering the super chats here on YouTube. One of the criticisms that I've heard of communists is they are lazy and they don't want to work and they want live off the state of money. Well, this is where people are arguing. They think that the welfare state is communism, and that is not the case. If you have the capitalist system, but you tax people and you create a lot of, a lot of government programs. That's capitalism still. Socialism is when you have a centrally planned economy, when the banks and the factories and the industries are organized to serve public good and not the profits of a wealthy few. And that would lead to a situation where you wouldn't need a welfare state because everyone would have a job. You'd have universal employment. Communist countries tend to have universal employment. They don't have unemployment because people are all working, right? You go to any anti-imperialist country. Cuba has no unemployment. Right? China has no unemployment for the most part, very little unemployment, minimal unemployment, right? I mean, North Korea has no unemployment. The Soviet Union had no unemployment. So you wouldn't need welfare programs or pensions for unemployed people because there would be none. They would be utilizing the labor of every person to build a more productive society. And in fact, the Soviet Constitution talked about how not only does everyone have the right to a job, but they have an obligation to work as well. So there you go. There you go. Right. That generally the way socialism is understood is that we utilize all the labor of everyone to build a more prosperous future. That the irrationality of capitalism, where you have all kinds of people who are able-bodied and able to work that aren't working because a capitalist can't make profits from them, that's gotten rid of, and you're utilizing all the strength of the country to maximize the wealth in society. Next, they'll say that the Ukrainian scuba divers did it. Yeah, I mean, it's getting stupid. It's really getting stupid. I mean, yeah. So Iran killed 800 Palestinians by making Hamas blow up their own hospital. How stupid do they think we are? And why was their first response that, we did it because it was a Hamas headquarters? Actually, Iran did. I mean, come on. Look at it. I mean, 500 to 800 people. They haven't even calculated exactly how many people yet. 500 to 800 people with a single airstrike. Criminal. Absolutely criminal behavior from the Israeli government. No excuses for it. No excuses for it. And, it's like if you say that you think 9/11 was an inside job, they say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. You think JFK being assassinated, that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. That's a conspiracy theory. But if you think that Hamas blew up their own hospital and killed their own population just to make Israel look bad, as if Israel's not already wildly unpopular, right? That's just common sense. Of course, Israel's aligned with America, and America never does anything bad. It's always those Muslims who do bad things. Infuriating, absolutely infuriating, right? Absolutely infuriating. Is it possible that your premise for Bonapartism is flawed? Jason, it is never possible that I could ever be flawed in any way. I am a perfect human being who is infallible. Haven't you figured this out yet, Jason? I am purely infallible, and it is not possible that I could ever be wrong about any topic at any time. I mean, that's just how these things work, Jason. I have never been wrong about anything. I am always right on every point. Everything I do is always the correct decision. I never have made a mistake in my entire life, Jason. So when you're asking, is it possible that your premise for Bonapartism is flawed? The answer is no, it is not possible, because I could never make a mistake ever. Does that answer your question, Jason? I hope that clears that up. Remember that next time. Remember, get this right. Right? What's the old joke that, Chuck Norris doesn't go hunting because that implies he might fail? Rather, Chuck Norris goes killing. Right? There's not, what's the joke? These were popular jokes when I was in high school, the Chuck Norris jokes. They were like a thing that everyone did for a while. What was it? There's not a theory of evolution by natural selection. There's simply a list of species that Chuck Norris allows to live. When Chuck Norris does push-ups, he's not pushing himself up. He's pushing the earth down. I don't know. There you go. There you go, Jason. I mean, to be honest, to be frank, Jason, how would you expect me to respond to that? Is it possible that somebody could have a different interpretation of the Marxist concept of Bonapartism? Of course, People have been reading these books for years and have many different interpretations of the concepts, right? I know that. There's people who read Marxism to say the exact opposite of what I say, right? That just like there are many brands of Christianity. All the Christians read the same Bible, but you have Catholics, you have Protestants, you have Orthodox, you have Baptists, you have Pentecostals. They're all reading the same Bible for the most part, but they come to different interpretations. So is it possible that someone could read Marx's book, the 18th Brumaire of Louis Bonaparte? Is it possible that one could read that book and have a different interpretation of it? Of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. Any bands that go hard like Rage Against the Machine, Tom Morello. I'll be honest, Gabby. I'm just being honest, and I respect people's different views. Rage Against the Machine is okay. But it's never really been my favorite. When I was getting into communism in high school and I was sympathetic to different Maoist groups, I knew that they were friendly to some of the Maoist communist groups. And, so that made me interested in Rage Against the Machine. And so, because of that, I got the Battle of Los Angeles, which is their album that they did. It's dedicated to the LA Rebellion. That actually has an ad in the vinyl, like in the, what do you call it? The booklet that comes with the album. It actually has an ad for the group Refuse and Resist, which was an activist group run by the Revolutionary Communist Party. It has lyrics about Mumia Abu Jamal. It's okay. It's not tremendous. It's okay. And then I remember, I don't know, there was a couple other, it was kind of like, it wasn't my favorite stuff, but I appreciated it. Now, Tom Morello, who was part of Rage Against the Machine, I have met him on several occasions. Maybe not anymore since things have gotten weird, but it used to be, at Occupy Wall Street, he would just show up as the night watchman. That's what he called himself. That was his acoustic band, and he would get up and perform like folk songs and different songs. And, he did like an acoustic folk kind of thing. And what else do I remember from Rage Against the Machine? I remember their concert in Cuba. I bought the DVD of that, their concert in Cuba, which was quite interesting. Or was it Audio Slave who went to Cuba? Maybe it was Audio Slave, because Audio Slave was later, where they got a new vocalist. It was Rage Against the Machine, but they got a new vocalist, I believe. Audio Slave. What was that guy's name? I don't know. Yeah. It was Audio Slave who went to Cuba. But yeah, Rage Against the Machine. Right. Right. And then they had Bulls on Parade. And then they had, Sleep Now in the Fire. There were a couple other albums that they had. Oh boy, it's been a while. Right. But yeah. They were supporters of Mumia Abu Jamal. People of the Sun, that was a song they did for the Zapatistas of Mexico, which were a big current back then, right? They were supporting the Zapatistas and the kind of indigenous separatists in Chiapas, Mexico, that were promoting like anarchism and Marxism and such. And yeah, they were important. I remember they did a thing once where Michael Moore was going around to different politicians and trying to get them to jump into his mosh pit. Do you remember this? The political mosh pit. And then I think the only candidate they actually got to jump into the mosh pit was Alan Keyes, the Black Republican. Yeah, I remember that. Wonder if that clip is available. I could put that on. I bet that'll probably get my stream taken down, right? Or no? Political mosh pit. Was that's probably copyrighted, right? Right or no? Could I put that clip on, or is that? Yeah, I can't find it. No, it looks like I can put that on, but it's a little long. Maybe I won't put it on. But yeah, I remember that. That was kind of clever, and they were playing. And then I believe there was a Rage Against the Machine video that was filmed on Wall Street. That was filmed on Wall Street. for one of their songs that Michael Moore actually directed. And what's eerie is in that video, even though this was years before, there's people standing around with Trump for president signs in the video, which is interesting. So, right. So there you go. There you go. And they like performed on Wall Street, and then they got arrested for, I don't know. They do that. If you make too much of a disturbance in New York City, the police will arrest you. And so I guess they were playing a concert on Wall Street, without telling anybody, without getting a permit, and they arrested them, and that, like, they filmed them getting arrested. That was like a thing, if I remember correct. I don't remember. It's been a while, but yeah, that was, again, this is like, we're talking like late 90s and then early 2000s. They were a big part of leftism when freeing Mumia Abu-Jamal was a big movement, when Democracy Now! And Amy Goodman was big. Before Russia and China were really playing the role that they're playing now, they were a big part of, Gen X radicalism, I guess. Gen X radicalism. I'm a millennial, but Gen X radicalism, Free Mumia, AIDS crisis. Yeah. That was, Battle of Seattle. Yeah. So, I actually reference them in my letter to Bob Avakian. I reference Rage Against the Machine and how they promoted the RCP. They promoted Bob Avakian a little bit. So I talk about that in the book a little bit because, there you go. Caleb, did you see Marius Trotter on Midwest Marks last night? Nope. Didn't. Don't watch Midwest Marks. He was discussing a very interesting article of his comparing similarities between the U.S. and Chinese Revolution. Cool. Great. Yeah, but I don't, if Midwest Marks, if they were to reach out to me, if they wanted to have me on, I would go on. But, they generally haven't been friendly to me, and they like to, I don't know. Again, first of all, they're a social media brand. Okay. They're a social media brand. I'm building like in real life organization. So it's like apples and oranges, but also they're really into the, we don't associate with, no. And they're trying to keep their reputation clean, and it's not working, but so I assume they don't, they've kind of, denounced me. There's been a few digs that they've made at me over the times, and I don't want to war with them. I'm not interested in social media stuff. They do good work. There's some of their content about China, some of their content about various issues is good stuff. So good for them. Good. If they do good content, good for them. If they want to, collaborate with me a little bit, great. But at the end of the day, they're a social media brand. I'm building an in real life organization. Two different things. All righty. Thoughts on Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose campaign of 1912? Well, Lenin wrote an essay about it. He wrote an analysis of the 1912 elections in the United States. And he argued that Teddy Roosevelt's entire campaign was basically to take votes away from Debs. That it was kind of, because Debs was the socialist, Marxist, anti-imperialist, revolutionary candidate. Lenin argued that the Bull Moose Party was created so that people that were mad at the system would have somewhere other than Debs to go. And that it was Teddy Roosevelt was kind of a Bonapartist. And you can read Lenin's analysis of the 1912 elections. It's a pretty good essay. There used to be a book. I used to have it. I don't know if I still have it, called Lenin on the United States. And it was just every essay that Lenin had ever written about the United States. It was a volume you could get. And there was that was one of the essays that Lenin wrote on the United States. And it was about the 1912 election results and how Teddy Roosevelt was basically trying to take votes away from Debs. And it was like a populist kind of campaign, but it was still pro-imperialist. It was still racist and in favor of segregation and anti-black, but there was some stuff about workers' rights, workers' protections against the monopolies, but it was also very much in favor of an aggressive U.S. foreign policy, seize more territory. So it was a mixed campaign, right? It was not a revolutionary campaign, but it had populist edge to it. Why don't they do flotillas like they used to? Well, the people got killed, didn't they? People shot at them, and I mean, it was intense, you know. I mean, those flotillas, they would invade those ships, and I mean, it was pretty intense, if I remember correctly. And those flotillas it was a good way to raise awareness against the blockade of Gaza. But the Israeli response, the Israeli response, was pretty vicious to the flotillas. It was a pretty vicious response. So there you go. If I remember correctly, the Israelis were not too happy about it, and they accused them of being terrorists, and they invaded, they jumped on the ships and pointed guns in people's faces and stuff like that. It was a pretty intense kind of situation, if I remember correctly. So there you go. There you go. There you go. Yeah. So I guess unless there's another Rumble rant, which there doesn't seem to be, and there's not another Rockfin tip, I think that's our show for tonight, folks, which is fine. It's been a good show. I'll be back tomorrow at noon, 2 a day. Enjoy me now, because it looks like I'll be traveling next week. So yeah. All right. So I'll put on the closing music, and we'll have another show sometime soon. Tomorrow at noon, actually. So there you go. And I got to remember to put up the morning message from a CPI member, right? I got to remember to put it up. Upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.